because of the
Yeah,
ghost. Be nice,
again.
ghost. We love you. Woo, hello. Hello. I think it's
Hello.
just Harrison right now, but that's fine. Um,
Hello.
yay. Welcome to our last show of 2020.
Last show of 2020. I can't believe it. Last
I'm
what is no Tuesday. 2020. I don't even know what day it is.
I don't know what day it is. It's
Yeah.
Thursday to me every
Yeah.
day.
Um,
Hello Harrison. Yeah. How was everyone's holiday?
hope it was
How was yours?
good
Can you
and restful and peaceful. Mine was like very boring, which is fine. Like I got to
Yeah.
nap and all that stuff. And I watched Soul. Have you seen Soul yet?
I haven't, but I've seen everyone online saying how amazing it is.
I really loved it. You know, it's like one of those movies I keep thinking about, and like I guess sometimes I get too philosophical with movies, but I still don't know what to make of it. I don't want to talk about it because you haven't seen it, but
Mm.
I don't know what to make of the ending. Like I think I get it, but then I'm like, but then I have to re-question everything. Like I'm just in that space. Like it makes you think a lot.
Yeah. Soul is it's a Pixar movie. It's on Disney Plus, right?
Yes.
And it's about, do you want to tell Harrison what it's about?
Yeah, it's
Briefly.
about, let me see. I can't, I think, let me, I don't want to give anything away that the commercial doesn't, but essentially, the commercial tells you this much, or the preview tells you this much is that this guy dies. He's a musician, he loves music, and he dies. And his soul wants to get back to, or he wants to get back to life, basically. And it's
Oh.
like about that story.
Oh.
Yeah.
I still haven't watched Coco because I heard it's upsetting. But I
It's
have it. I own it.
Coco is one of the most beautiful movies. You will cry. It's the freaking music in there. You will cry.
Yeah.
I will tell you that this one has like some tough parts about like when he first dies. There are some sad, like it's very mature. Um,
Yeah.
and there's like a lot of questions about purpose and life and all that. But it's like a beautiful story. And Tina Fey is in it as well. And she plays a great part. She plays a great part as well. And John Baptiste does the music, which is gorgeous. It's really, really well done. And you really feel like that's like the main character. You really feel like you know him and you know his like family and his community. And like, it's really well done in that way. Like, you get really
Okay.
like attached to him. Or
Oh, yeah.
I did.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Cool. Yeah, I will get to that. I haven't watched Coco. Like I said, I own Coco. I
yeah.
got it. I got promo for Coco, I think. And
Coco
that's how I got
promo.
it. Yeah, there was, or it was like they were celebrating Day of the Dead and they brought us like
Yeah.
sometimes it'll just be like a themed dessert. So we'll get like cupcakes
Yeah.
and the movie. And I know how sad it is and how it makes people cry. So I'm waiting until I'm ready to have that kind of cry. And 2020 has not been that year.
No, I
Not.
recommend. Yeah,
So
you will cry. It's the music really, and the Pixar does just knows how to like just get you right in the heart.
yeah.
Like Onward. I was very upset by that movie. That movie really upset me because it's kind of about like what if you could see someone you lost like one more time. Like
Oh
even if
God.
you weren't, and in the movie, it's a parent. And even though I like wasn't close with my parent, that idea of being able to see them, I'm gonna cry. Like one more
Yeah.
time, especially because my dad died in like an axe. Like it wasn't like it was sudden. It was a
Right.
sudden,
Right.
and and then like it plays with that, but in the I think personally from having lost a parent in the cruelest way possible. And so I didn't enjoy, like, I loved Julia Louis Dreyfus in it. I thought it was funny. It had great moments. But overall, the story, if you've lost a parent or like anyone, like really, really close to you, it is very difficult
Mm,
to watch.
yeah.
Because it doesn't like in the end, the payoff isn't great, like to where you
Right.
feel better.
Right.
It just makes you like cry, and you're like, I don't want to cry
Right.
at a Disney movie. Like I want to laugh and maybe be like moved, but I don't
Yeah.
want to be like it's I. that one was very upsetting. Coco is like you'll still feel good after it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do. I mean, for all I don't want to like feel those Coco feelings, I do highly recommend. But the day I got fired, I got really wine drunk and watched Frozen 2.
Oh yeah, we
And
watched that. Yeah.
I very, very highly recommend getting drunk and watching a princess movie, especially Frozen,
Oh yeah.
because it's all about like you're not where you're supposed to be and there's something else waiting for you and you just have to go and find it. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, Elsa, you're the winter spirit.
I love a
Yeah.
Disney/Disney Pixar movie. I mean, pretty much I could watch any of them. And their shorts at the beginning are even just more
Yeah.
me too
Oh,
with all the feeling.
what was it? Was it before? I forget. Oh, was it before Brave? I think was the short about the volcanoes in Hawaii or the
Oh
island
my
of Hawaii.
God. That was
Sobbing,
yeah,
sobbing,
me too. It's
sobbing.
so and I think every year since then, Jude has made that lava volcano at the beach. Because we're like not good at castles, so we always end up making the lava.
Oh. um,
One
welcome
thing
to
that
our sad Disney channel.
I know, well, yeah, sad Disney talk.
Yeah.
um, one thing before we move into the story today is I was hoping that for Friday you might be interested in watching The Ripper because I basically
Oh, on Netflix.
inhaled it. It's only 4 episodes.
Okay.
And I watched like three in a row while I was wrapping gifts. And it ended up being like 3 in the morning. And I was like, I can't stay up like to watch. I was like zoning out of the fourth one. And luckily I went back in the next day and it was like
Okay.
much clearer when I went back in because it was starting to make no sense. But something I will say, something that I specifically want to talk about is that it's so funny because I went on. I always go and look and see what people think of it after I've watched it, and the
Mhm.
reviews are so middling, and it's middling. And I read them on like IMDb, and it's middling because people didn't like that it talked about feminism, and I was like,
Oh, IMDb is a wasteland
what?
of
They're like
nonsense.
terrible people,
Oh,
and
hello to Brazil, Alan's SX. We're so happy to have you. Hello down there. You
so
have different scars.
So anyway, what I would love to talk about is the way that it talks about the York. It's about the Yorkshire Ripper in England, which was like in the what late 70s 80s I think, and it's about
Yeah,
feminism, and there's a lot about feminism and like women like like that whole message of like women don't go out at night kind of stuff.
right.
So I and it just like there's a lot, there's more, but I don't want to give it all away, but I really enjoyed that part of it. It's not
Cool.
like exciting like American Murder where you're like this is interesting, but it's
You're welcome.
oh, thank you. Um, uh, but it's I would love to talk about it if you have time to watch.
Oh yeah.
Because
I just finished Bridgerton last night, so
oh
I have an opening.
yeah.
My two things, my Kissing Books movies Netflix series. Um, and then so I have a test for the chat, and this is something from TikTok that's gone viral on TikTok that I absolutely love. This girl she opens she it's very short and she's like, I'm having a disagreement with my boyfriend. Tell me what you picture in your head when I say the robe that a woman wears when she's just murdered her husband.
Oh, like the fluffy silk one. Yeah.
Right,
With like
exactly,
the
exactly.
fluffy. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my God, that's the first thing I thought, like the flowy with the fur trim and
Yeah.
it's the tie belt. Of course, of course. So that's gone viral on TikTok, and it's just all these people like, yes, this one. And so I love it so
Like
much. It's
what
so
other
funny.
one would it be? Like the short terry cloth? No.
That's no, yeah, no. Yeah, so that was the only other thing I wanted to do. Story. So last week we were talking, and I think it was Harrison that was like, "There, why are there no lady cult leaders?" Because it's always we're like, it's always some gross dude.
Harrison,
Um,
that's the second runner up. I swear that's a good that
that's a good runner-up,
I will take
but
that. Yeah.
that is the one that a woman wears when she's left her husband, she's running away,
Right. Or
and
like she's run
she's having
from
an
the
affair,
home. Or she's like she's
right?
killed and she's run off to a hotel, then you're not
Yeah,
going to bring your like that this is the one where you're like opening the door with your like
martini glass.
your Cosmo.
Oh,
Like he's
oh,
in the
maybe
bedroom.
I don't know where he could be. He left yesterday. He took his suitcase.
Or like, I'll show you
Good
the
idea.
bottom right this way, and then you
Right.
sashay it, when you turn.
Because
Um,
it
yes,
flows.
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
ripples like a river. It's
In this
I
fantasy too, I also have good legs for
right,
the
because it's
sashay.
very sheer. I thought about getting one for myself, but I have a dog, so I would have to like take it off and put on clothing whenever I wanted to walk the dog.
Yeah.
Or not.
Or not. I mean,
Or
that could
not.
be the new you in 2021.
And the neighbors would be like, she just murdered her husband.
Mhm.
Amazing. Yeah. I might want to be fancy, but in a cozy way in 2021.
I wish I could do a caftan, but I'm too short and round. But I would, if I lost a bunch of weight and then maybe somehow grew, I would get so many caftans.
Oh. What are if you have New Year's resolutions, tell us in the chat.
Yeah, please.
I told mine, I'll embarrass myself for the sake of honesty. I told my therapist if my goal is just change your underwear every day in 2021. And she thought that was the funniest thing. It's like, that's a good place to start. I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. That's it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Change your underwear every day.
Yeah.
Maybe shower.
Mhm.
Maybe shower every day. Um, all right. So, our story tonight, this is a true crime Twitch channel. This is our case of the week. We're going to do an Australian cult called The Family that was headed by a woman. And I don't want to be like Stefan voice, this has everything, but this has everything. Like Victorian ghost children, children of the corn vibes, unfortunate haircuts, glamour, yoga, like baby snatching, interfering in the like infiltrating the government, going all the way to the top. Okay. So you
You
will
love
think
when it goes all the way to the top.
it
That's like
goes
your thing.
all the way, and it's everywhere in between. It's amazing. So, okay, my sources are the podcast Australian True Crime,
Mhm.
which is really, really good. They did an interview with the journalist Chris Johnson, who co-created a documentary about the family with Rosie Jones. And they had a lot of information. There's a Guardian article about the cult and also the film by Abigail Hayworth, and then the BBC obit for the cult leader,
Mm.
and then Wikipedia, my love. Um, you know, my problematic fave that we keep going. I just can't quit. So Anne Hamilton Byrne, lady cult leader of the family, was born Evelyn Grace Victoria Edwards on December 30th, 1921. So, yes, tomorrow would have been her 90th birthday. I always do this. I always pick like right when it's going to be their birthday. I've
But
done it
not
twice.
if she was born in 21, it would be her 100th birthday. Oh no, her 99th birthday.
Tomorrow, right? Because it's still 2020.
Right. I think I'm already skipped ahead a year. Sorry, everybody. I'm already in December of 2021.
Venus from the future.
I'm from the future, and I'm here to tell you it doesn't get better. No, I'm just
I'm
kidding.
sorry, spoiler alert, she's dead. She was born in 1921. That's kind of spoiler alert itself.
Well,
So she's born in this very small town in Australia, 2 hours outside Melbourne. It's like so small, it only has one street. And her childhood was troubled. Her mother was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and institutionalized after she set her own hair on fire in the middle of the street.
ooh,
Yeah.
that's tough.
She was institutionalized for 27 years until she died.
Do you know
So
how old Evelyn was when she did this? When her mom did
oh,
that?
I think we do. They mentioned it on the podcast. She was still young, so she was
Okay.
still a minor.
Okay.
Um, but she wasn't like a baby who wouldn't remember it.
Right. Right. Right.
So her father is an itinerant worker.
Mm-hmm.
So she ends up having to spend some time in orphanages, and she's like in and out of places because of his jobs.
Okay.
Um, right after World War II, she gets married, and she and her husband make plans to adopt some children out of the orphanages. So, like where she kind of lived. They even start the process with a firm, but then the husband dies tragically in a car accident.
Hmm.
So Anne is now a widow. and she's looking around trying to figure out what the next part of her life is going to be, what to do with herself. And she finds the thing that would set her on the path to becoming the leader of a long running cult with arms in all forms of Australian government. She discovers yoga.
I mean, yoga has a lot of cults. I feel like because like isn't Bikram yoga? Isn't that guy a cult dude?
Yeah, that guy
Or
just
is he
got,
just a sex? Is he just like a sexual abuse guy, or is it a
yeah,
cult? Okay, I can't
yeah.
remember.
I mean, in dude cults, it's both. There's always both.
Yeah.
There's always that point where they're like, you know what? To get salvation, you have to bang the guru. And everyone's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's out of left field, but all right. Um, and yoga does lend itself, as someone who did yoga for a long time, yoga can lend itself to guru worship and like other weird things. I don't know.
Is it because of just the? I don't know why. Is it because of like the comfy pants and like the lying around and stretching? Like, is it this is that you're just like you're just in a kind of like you're not hypnotized, but you're kind of in a very ultra relaxed state.
You are. Um,
It's the pants,
it's the pants. You know what? Come to think of it, has any cult made their flock wear an outfit that wasn't super comfy?
right?
That's a big thing in cults. It's like it's always comfy. There's like a
You're right.
robe.
You're right.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense because you want to lull people into feeling good, and feeling good is
Right.
like,
Like you don't have to wear pants. We wear robes.
mhm,
We're enlightened. So she gets super into yoga. Now this is the 1950s, and that's a big deal. Yoga's very new.
yeah,
And this is extremely woo-woo at the time
right,
because it's um and this is the beginning of the 60s, so like late 50s, early 60s.
okay,
So things are starting to kind of change in the culture. Counterculture is kind of starting to emerge, but we're not there yet.
yeah.
Um, so Anna's actually taught yoga by the woman credited with introducing yoga to the West, a Swedish woman named Margrit Sigismund. So she's kind of got some clout. So she's kind of a big deal. Sweatpants for everyone, my kind of cult. Yeah, like seriously.
That might be the like I have said it many times. I am not primed for a cult. Like I just would be terrible at a cult for so many reasons. Laziness, not liking I don't like to be told what to do, and the more you tell me what to do, the less I'm going to do it, like that kind of thing. But comfy pants that might get me like in the door.
Yeah,
Like wear
yeah,
pajama pants all the time. If that was a
yeah,
sign outside, I'd be like, yes.
yeah.
And then as soon as they were like, this is a cult, I'd be like, oh, I'm
Uh,
sorry.
well, but there's all those stories that have been writing into My Favorite Murder of people who didn't know they were in a cult.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah. So this is kind of like that because she's just a yoga teacher.
Okay.
So she's teaching yoga classes in church basements, and she happens to be practicing this in a very wealthy part of town. So obviously, her classes are full of rich women with
Mhm.
time and money on their hands. And it's the early 60s. So more and more women are beginning to be dissatisfied with their lives. They're looking at all of these options that are emerging. And Anne is very, very charismatic. There was an anecdote in one of the articles where she was telling women to leave their husbands in an age where divorce is still unthinkable.
Right.
So, but then if the woman left, they would be indebted to her. So she'd kind of have a little bit of control. But
Right.
I love that her cult leader status started when she was like, "Girl, leave him.
I
Leave
know,
him."
right? Which is basically everybody's advice always.
Yeah, always leave. Always leave. If you wonder whether you should leave, leave. You should.
It's, so I'm basically a cult leader.
Yeah.
I wonder though, like, I wonder why it's interesting that you say that she felt that the person was indebted to her because I definitely wouldn't feel that way. If I gave someone advice, I wouldn't feel like now you owe me. I'd be like, good for you. So I wonder what
Well,
makes her have that. I wonder.
that's my presumption, and it's
Okay.
because divorce was really, really stigmatized and frowned upon and
Okay.
hard to do. So you're probably losing some circle. Hello, Doreen.
Um,
You're probably losing some friends. You're losing some social support because
yeah.
you're doing
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Yeah. So also, she was incredibly glamorous.
Hmm.
We have some photos. All of these photos are from their promo photos for a CBS 48 Hours episode from 2017 that were supplied by the documentary production company. But
She's
so
very
that
beautiful. She's
yeah,
very beautiful.
that's her. This is also her. Um,
Hmm.
this although this is her when she's crazy eyed
Yeah,
later in
that's
life.
different. Mhm.
Yeah,
And the
that's different.
forehead is too big.
Yeah.
You know what's
So
interesting? A glamorous lady is really, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting a lot. A glamorous lady, though, has a lot of appeal because think about last week when we talked about, what's her name? Elaine Parent. People were giving her like their social security information just because she
yeah,
was glamorous. So there is something about that where, like, I guess you feel like you want to be in that sphere.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're very attractive. Yeah,
Classy, yeah, that's the word. And I
yeah,
think, especially
yeah.
if you're with like hot, like ladies with a lot of money, they all kind of want to aspire to that same thing, which is being that
Right.
sophisticated. So you kind of are putting your guard down a little bit.
Right, right, and she's incredibly glamorous. She's gorgeous. She's got these ice blue eyes. People say can look into your soul. She's always dressed very well. She's always put together. She's got that Farrah Fawcett flyaway hairdo that you can see. So she's kind of aspirational.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I know the secret. It's the stuff that I do. It's the yoga,
Mm-hmm.
and she gets inspired by the Theosophical Society, which
Mm-hmm.
describes themselves as the synthesis of science, religion, and philosophy. So basically, cherry picking kind of beliefs and like making them all work together.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're mixing all of the beliefs, basically like choose your own religion, cultural appropriation style. She's picking whatever she likes from any of the religions, but a lot of it is Eastern mysticism. And as she starts to exert more and more influence over her yoga group, this is how she starts to get into Melbourne society because she's this great yoga teacher. Like everyone loves her, everyone wants her around. She's glamorous and charismatic. So she makes her way into Melbourne society, which is very important to her success as a cult leader. Now that she's mingling with the rich, she's around doctors and medical professionals. So she decides we're going to be an LSD group. That's what we're going to
That is a big left turn.
do. So Eastern mysticism, we're going to do opening your mind. It's LSD time, bitches.
Now,
And
is this happening in the, like, I'm trying to think of the year where that was happening here with like Ken Kesey and Allen Ginsberg. Was that kind of coinciding with it here in terms of the timeline? Okay.
so this is, yes, this is the early 60s.
Okay, so it's
LSD.
all converging. Okay.
And at the time in Australia, LSD was legal to use for psychiatric treatment if you had a license.
Cool.
So
What could
she's,
go wrong?
yeah, right, I know. So all of these members of her group are doctors and medical people and people with licenses. So it's no problem. They got LSD. Um, and no one will want to say anything because she also has like authority figures in this group. And that's how it kind of infiltrates and gets its tentacles in all of the big institutions in Australia. Then the cult gets its biggest get of all that would give them all kinds of legitimacy and attention. Dr. Raynor Johnson, who is a physics professor who was Master of Queen's College at Melbourne University. So he's a big deal academic wise. He's a big deal in town because the university made a big deal out of him coming all the way from his big shot gig in Leeds. So the upper crust, they know him, they're impressed by him. But at this point in his life, he's moving out of pure physics and he's dabbling in metaphysics, which means something different now. It means like atoms and quarks and strings. But at this time, it's the woo woo stuff in the
Yeah.
60s,
Yeah.
like law of attraction and everything.
Yeah.
So he also had connections to the spiritualism movement, which took place earlier in the 20th century in England. And the course of study that he's interested in right now is gurus. He's really interested in gurus. So because Anne Hamilton Byrne is by now neck deep in Melbourne society, she goes on a recon to get this guy. There's a member of the group who worked as a gardener and caterer at the university. So he gets all kinds of intel and feeds it to her about Dr. Johnson. He's like, here's where he goes, here's what he does. Any details of his everyday life that he can find out, he gives to her. And she takes all this, goes to Johnson's house, knocks on his door, and is basically like, hi, I hear you like gurus. I'm actually the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. And then she tells him facts about himself that she learned by this recon. And this amazing professor of physics, who everyone is so impressed by, goes, "How could you know that? You must be telling the truth."
Oh no.
I know. He fell for it hook, line, and sinker. By the way, we know this from his own diary because that's what he wrote. Then, to seal the deal, he does some LSD, as one does. And he sees like this aura of brightness around her. He sees her face looking angelic. And then he goes, "Well, there's your proof. She is actually reincarnated Jesus."
No.
And then,
No.
and then they're basically, "Well, let's start a cult then." Yes, let's. Uh,
You know what's interesting? I for a while someone told me to listen. I don't even know if it was a human being that told me, like that I know, or it was. I'm going to see if I could just find it at a glance. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to be able to because I unsubscribed. But someone told me. I don't know if it was a human being that I know or it was like a recommendation in something I was reading. But he's one of these like spiritual guys that was supposed to be like enlightened, and I could only listen for a little while to his podcast because it was a little too woo woo for me. Like at some point, I shut down with
yeah.
that stuff. But it's really interesting because it was like had to be the same time period, but it was like he was doing all that LSD stuff at the same time. Like he was going to Ken Kesey's, these goofy ass people. Harrison is saying it much better than I am. But he would go to all these things and he was like doing LSD and he was trying to find a guru and like all this stuff. So this was like a huge thing. But what he found, because they were trying to, I think they were trying to, this is my very short and very like poor memory lesson on this subject, but I believe they were trying to get the government to a U.S. government to legalize LSD because they
Mhm.
thought it did all these enhancements. But with this guy Rami, I think his name is Rami, but at any rate, he what he discovered is that like it was only temporary, like that it wasn't a true state that you were in, like that you weren't really achieving anything because you needed the drug to get there. And so
Right.
he was trying to find enlightenment after that point, um naturally, like that there had to be something that you can do. So it's just interesting in that movement how she knew how to manipulate.
Hmm.
She early on figured out a way to manipulate that I can use I can tell this guy anything and then use this drug to suggest things and
Yeah.
he will feed into it.
Yeah.
But she kind of already probably had that on her mind that this is not a temporary thing, but I can use it to adjust what I need. That's
Yeah.
very clever. She must have been
Yeah.
very smart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually funny that you brought that up because there's the hilarious moment in the podcast. And if this interests you, listen to the Australian true crime episode about it because it's really, really good. There's this moment in the podcast where the hosts go, "All right, we've all done LSD, right? Yes. Okay. um, if someone comes in a flowy gown and blinks the lights when you're high and tells you they're Jesus, you will absolutely believe them." Like that's like
It's just so,
totally
yeah, it's so sad. Like she immediately knew how to manipulate this really, really bright guy.
right. And all these other people. So
Yeah.
there's all of these successful, wealthy people in this group. Um,
Because they had this pie in the sky desire for things to be better than they were. And they were thinking, like, this drug is going to be the answer to that. And it's going to give me
right,
answers. And in truth, it's not going to give you answers. It's going to take whatever suggestion is near you and
right,
enhance that, right? So
right.
it's so interesting because yeah, people were looking for something then. People
Yeah,
really wanted enlightenment, and
yeah,
he was like, "Yeah, I'll give you enlightenment."
yeah. She's like, totally.
Yeah,
Woo woo, I'm Jesus. Oh my God.
and this is probably the point where like probably not a lot of people had said like by now if someone tells you that they're the reincarnation of Jesus, you're
Right.
clearly like no.
Yeah.
But back then, maybe there wasn't. Maybe it was like a new
And
thing.
people
So
weren't,
you're like,
yeah,
really?
people also weren't really, I think people were very innocent when it came to recreational drugs. Like we don't know, they didn't know everything we know now.
Right,
So now they're like, "I was on LSD and I realized that she's Jesus." And we'd be like, "Okay, well, that's the drug talking,
right.
sweetheart. Just your brain on drugs." So, but in 1961, boom, they're like, well, what do we do with this newfound info? Start a cult. She teams up with Dr. Johnson, and they found this 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 cult. So they all these wealthy, powerful people from government and society are in this group. They're rolling in money. They're rolling in LSD.
What a
The
nightmare. What a total nightmare.
it's absolute. It's just absolutely bonkers.
It
It
gives me
just high,
anxiety just thinking about
right?
like that would give me so much anxiety just thinking about that being in that group. I feel like
Right.
get me out of here immediately.
By day,
Yeah.
by day, I'm a doctor or a lawyer or a judge, and by night, I just drop LSD and
Yeah.
just get
Mm-mm.
high as a kite.
No, thank you.
So they infiltrate the local mental asylum, New Haven Clinic, so that they get even more access to LSD. They have cult members as doctors and nurses who can prescribe LSD to them.
Mm-mm.
They recruit people from the patients who have been prescribed LSD as therapy. Also, amazingly, the person who is in charge of determining who gets a license to prescribe LSD in Australia at that point was a cult member.
Love it.
So they're everywhere. They're just
Yeah.
it goes all the way to the top. There it
All
is.
the way to the top.
And Anne starts to be super into plastic surgery, which you might know by that hairline that was like, you know. And she's one of the first people to get into it because it's this new thing in the 60s. As the years go by, as you can see in photos, her hairline just keeps going all the way up to her head, all the way, like it's back here, but her face is so tight, just so tight. And I bet her plastic surgeon was a cult member.
Yeah.
It's just like, um, the group starts buying land. At this point, they're calling themselves the family. They name it that.
So it
Um,
started with them just believing she's the reincarnation of Jesus, and then what that just manifested in more of that, or that's just is that their like what is their premise? She's
yeah,
Jesus
I
and that's it.
vague.
Okay.
Yeah, like this is the guru, she's Jesus. She starts giving sermons, so there's a lot of that.
Oh
It's kind of
no.
like Rajneesh, right? The Wild Wild Country guy. It's
Yeah.
like they know the answer, they have the word. So she's got this like purple throne that they made through donations, and they build, they buy a property at Ferny Creek Lodge in Victoria,
Mm-mm.
make that the big headquarters. They build a church called Santa Nikitan Lodge, which is still there to this day and still belongs to the cult of which there are still members. Um, so then she starts urging her followers to buy land around them so the compound gets bigger. She gets together with a guy named Bill. She hooks up with them. This is when they both take the name Hamilton Byrne, although they didn't get married, but that was like a symbol of their commitment.
I'm
And
sorry. I'm sorry. They
yeah,
both take the full name. Hamilton is their first name.
no, he's Bill Hamilton Byrne. They're
Oh,
hyphenated. And she's Anne Hamilton Byrne.
I thought they both just changed their name to Hamilton Byrne. I'm like, that is so confusing.
Yeah. Well, and
Sorry,
he's
everybody.
so what kind of guy is the kind of guy who's gonna go and get attached to the lady cult leader, right? Bill is described as, I love this quote, a handsome, rich, compliant handbag.
Like a bag. He's like a bag man,
Yes.
like Tony Hale and Veep, right?
He's a no, he's an accessory. He's the accessory.
Yeah.
Like, here's my husband. He does not speak. So now we go, unfortunately, from wacky LSD, probably money laundering, mysticism, nonsense, frolicking in this compound to the baby stealing nightmare factory.
Yeah.
So in 1968, this is 7 years in, Anne decides she wants to get back to her years ago intention to adopt children. And now she has cult members in places like the Adoptions Bureau, at child services, at hospitals for unwed mothers. It was still a scandal to be pregnant and unmarried at this time. So you have a lot of women and girls going to these hospitals secretly. They have the baby, then the staff finds them a good home
Mhm.
while they were taking them and handing them over to Anne Hamilton Byrne and the family.
I'm shocked that it lasted for 7 years without really any sense of like and eat it. Like they seemed loosey
Right.
goosey, so I'm surprised it lasted so
It's
long.
still I think it's still kind of like just meetings.
Okay.
Like we're having meetings, we get together to drop acid and then she speaks.
Okay. Okay. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's like a fun club.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's like our improv teams.
right.
It's
Okay.
not
Yeah. Then
boring
I can see
anything.
how 7 years is nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Right. Right.
So one of the investigators said, this is a quote, "You had babies born in cult hospitals, delivered by cult midwives, handed over to cult social workers." So that's like
Gross.
they were everywhere. And
Gross.
that's how they got around. Also, adoption law was not like really strict in Australia in the 60s and 70s, I think.
Hmm.
So there was that too, but also they had people in place who could get around anything. Then the family purchased what was basically a holiday cabin about 2 hours from the main compound. So this is someplace that is very isolated. I think we actually have a picture of it. This one. Yep, that's it. So there is, I gotta update the stream to, where are you? Where's my screen share there? Okay. Yeah, so it's this isolated cabin in the
Uh-oh.
woods. And
Mm-mm.
they're like, this, it's 2 hours away from the main compound. They're like, this is where the children are going to be raised.
No.
Plop them all there. So it's not just the adopted children, also children of cult members go to this lodge and they're kind of raised in the same thing. And this is a cult thing. This, you see this a lot. They break down the family structure.
Yeah.
There's no family bond. So children of cult members were called the fosters. And then the adopted children, who are actually stolen babies, they were told that Anne was their biological mother and Bill was their biological father. And they called the other cult members aunties and uncles. Then they were dressed in identical outfits. They looked like Victorian ghost children. They went around looking like this. I don't know if you can see.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah. They were in like, they're in velvet suits and gingham dresses.
Was she only? This is probably like an insulting. Maybe not. Was she only adopting white children?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And
And are they
we're
wearing
also,
wigs? Some of them, the boys.
no. So she dyed all of the children's hair the exact same ice blonde so that they would all look more like, and we have a couple more pictures of them too.
I'm so
Uh,
disturbed.
yeah, yeah, she dyed all their hair unless they had red hair. It's very Children of the Damned. Yeah, unless they had red hair, in which case she could,
Yeah,
yeah, Children of the Corn, and with, they could keep their red hair because she had reddish hair. So
that one in
there's
front looks like
that
a brown haired, but I can't see it.
the girl in the front, yeah. And then so then there's this photo, which is like the most
Oh, I've
the
seen
most Children of the Corn vibes that
I've
you will
seen
ever.
that photo before. It's not
Yeah,
just hair; it's that haircut. Like who
right.
was
That bowl
that? There
cut.
was a Saturday Night Live sketch, wasn't it? Fred Armisen, where he had a wig like that.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
yeah.
And he wore like a unitard. Was it Fred Armisen? It was somebody who wore a
I
unitard and had a
don't
haircut
know,
like that. It's so
but
disturbing.
yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, they're all dressed alike. They all have the same haircut. Their hair is all dyed blonde. Oh, she also distributed. There's this glamour shot of her and a child that she had handed out to everyone. And she was like, I want this to be on all of the altars to, I guess, her that were in everyone's houses. So I have that one. That's this one. Um, yeah. So
Oh
she's like,
no.
this, that was a photo that everyone had to have up in the cult. So,
Now, uh, uh, this is the point. Obviously, it's going to get worse, but this is the
oh
point
yeah.
where is nobody saying like, "Hold on, this is a huge
Mhm.
shift." Like before, we were just hanging out and doing LSD. She said she was Jesus, whatever, but it was fun.
Right.
But now all of these kids look like this like nobody is nobody ringing any like I don't understand how nobody is ringing an alarm. Not one person.
Right. Right. She has this whole veneer of like, I'm taking in unwanted children. Is she related to, oh my God, the needing the blonde? Um, who knows? She was
I
definitely alive
mean,
during World War II. She was an
I
adult.
mean,
So,
she was actually she was taking notes. If nothing else, she
yeah.
was taking notes.
Yeah. Right. So,
Yeah, it's right. A perfect society. You're right. You're right.
right. Right. And yeah. So, as I'm sure you may have guessed, raise the children basically means isolate and abuse them.
Yeah.
In horrible ways. The children were beaten, they were starved. If they acted out at all, it was just like immediate and severe.
So
They
nobody.
were given
But we were saying like nobody's ringing an alarm. Oh, because they want to believe
right.
so bad Harrison is saying.
And right, and they're also the children are isolated. So a lot of the adults don't
Oh,
have contact with them, and it seems like she picked so there were a few aunts or aunties in charge of the children. And they would do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off stints as they would go and work in hospitals and then bring their pay home and give it to the cult. And then the other 2 weeks they'd be with the children. And
right,
they're isolated and they're the only ones that have contact with them. And she picked, it seems like she picked women who couldn't really afford to defy her, who were kind of like,
right.
couldn't leave the cult and couldn't suffer her anger.
Hmm.
So that reinforces her control from afar. So she's putting women who she knows are going to obey in charge of
Right.
this, and no one else can see it.
The weird thing about her versus like, I hate even saying his name, but Hitler is that he was like looking for like quote unquote purity, where she was manufacturing
Right.
it.
Yeah.
It's all image based, which is basically what she started with all of
Right.
her beginnings. So she's really good at I don't want to say marketing, but like, she's good at like
Yeah.
using image to create a certain ideal or vibe. But I don't, and
Yeah.
not obviously not to good. Like imagine if she used it for
To
good.
actually help children.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But it's so disturbing
Yeah.
how bent it is the other way.
And so they said in the podcast, they said there were two groups of children. There were the fosters, and there were like her favorites who like the adopted biological children. So there was this small group of ones that were closer to her.
Hmm.
But at the time, they had like 28 children in
Ew.
this. Yeah, it was just
Wait,
like
wait, yeah, I know, I know.
28 kids. So like 14 adopted ones and 14 foster or children of cult members, they said in the podcast. Um, so now they do have a school for the children. And at some point, the group decides to make it an official school, which means that you have to have an inspection by the authorities. You have to be granted, like you have to be certified. They passed that with flying colors, though, because the people in charge of the cult school were teachers. They were teachers that were in the cult. So,
Oh,
two married teachers from the local high school basically got to design their own curriculum. And former children of the cult were actually very smart, well educated. They became accomplished adults. And like their education was good. The school was actually good. So, but still, like investigators walk into the school, there are almost 30 children in identical clothes with the same blonde haircut and the same last name. And they go, well, they can do calculus. So good job here. Goodbye.
I'm
Um, right.
horrified.
Right. There it's yeah. So
Maybe though it's probably a time where they're like mental health. How could
yeah,
it harm them? They're going to be fine.
it's a good
They're
school.
educated. Yeah, they're
Yeah. Right.
educated,
Right.
right? And what is long-term mental health care?
Right.
There's no such thing. They were still
And
lobotomizing people at that point. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Meanwhile, also these children, some of them you could tell that they had been starved. Like they
cool.
were some of them were described at the end as skeletal. So yeah, they're not thriving. They're not.
I hate
They're
when
obviously not thriving.
I hate when it's cruelty towards kids. I hate it. Like, I mean, not that I prefer
I
adults, but an adult is. I mean, it's one like if you're an adult and you're still a victim if you've been hypnotized or coerced into a cult. You're still a victim, but kids are there by default. Like they were either
right.
stolen or their parents are forcing them to be there. They have absolutely no control over their lives, and it kills me. It kills me that you would do that to them, where they
Right.
really have, it's kind of like Scientology, what they do to their kids.
Yeah. And it's this cult thing where you break down their bonds with their family so they don't have an adult, and then the difference with when it's a child versus when it's an adult is that when you're an adult, it's a horrible thing that happens to you. When you're
Yes.
a child, it's a horrible experience that forms the basis of how your brain relates to the world for the
Yeah.
rest of your life.
Yeah. And you
So,
didn't have any autonomy at any stage of the game. You
right,
like in the beginning, at least you joined a cult. It's not. I'm not. I'm definitely not victim shaming, but at least there was some. You entered
right,
something. A
right.
child
There's
is
some
not
agency, yeah,
making a choice to enter a cult.
right. And they don't know any different. Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, so obviously these kids, they're growing up isolated from the world. They don't get affection from adults. They don't have attachments to adults. Um, it's basically the rhesus monkey experiment, but with human beings.
Yeah.
So that's okay, and you're gonna get even madder. So that's their childhood. Then when they turn 14, they are initiated into the cult as cult adults. And that entails days and days and days of being dosed with LSD.
Oh my god.
Like, yeah, like brain breaking amounts and duration. It's basically psychological torture. And it's to rewire them into not being able to want anything else or believe anything else or do anything else. And this goes on for 20 years until in 1987, a girl named Sarah, who was one of the adopted slash stolen babies, who had been Anne's favorite child, got mouthy and was tossed out of the cult. Just like
I'm
that.
surprised they would toss her out because she knows too much, but
Right. They were so sure that she would not be able to survive without, and obviously, like when you get tossed out of a cult, it's terrifying and you're isolated from the world, so you don't know anything. Um, but she was like, fuck you, I have time. I'm going to the police.
because
And it's like, I
they
thought of
educated them. She was
because she's
educated.
educated,
Yeah.
right. She's like, "Mm-mm, don't think so." So
Mhm.
it's like when, a teenager's like, "I'm gonna call child services on you because 'cause you're so unfair," but it's, like, warranted. Um, Sarah actually hooks up with another girl, and I think her name was Leanne. I only heard mention of her in the podcast, but she had actually physically escaped from the school compound somehow.
That's right.
So
I
yeah.
vaguely remember this. Yeah.
So Sarah finds Leanne, and they go to the authorities, and they're like, "Hi, we were in a cult, and we would like to tattle."
Mhm.
Now, so the cult, they had actually been on the radar of authorities for a very long time, and they had been operating officially for 27 years.
Jeez.
So they're looking for things, they're watching, they
Mhm.
can't pin them on anything, and the cult is full of lawyers, authorities, doctors, judges,
Right.
officials, like government, they're everywhere. So even if someone from the outside could get in and get to it, it could protect itself. Very
Right.
Scientology like.
Ugh.
Yeah, it got a lot of power. So now in 1987, though, these two girls come out and they have firsthand experience and they think that they have enough to go on. So they raid the compound. They go in. They are able to get people to start flipping.
Huh.
Uh, Two women are charged with falsely obtaining tens of thousands of dollars that they later gave to the cult. There is a lawyer named Peter Kirby who was in the cult but had left, and one of the aunties who came forward and totally flipped. They revealed the fake birth
Good
certificates, they
for her.
revealed the baby stealing scheme,
Good for her.
they blew the lid off everything. So now they've got all this stuff, they've got all these people saying everything, they're arresting people. However, Anne and Bill are nowhere to be found. And they have property all over the world.
Oh no.
So a multinational search begins with cooperation from the US, the UK, the Australian bureaus, and they do not find them until 1993. So for 6
Oh my
years,
god.
they are able to evade capture.
Oh my gosh.
They finally found them by like staking out their house in the Catskills because they had a house in the
Oh
Catskills,
my
and
gosh.
they caught her like without her wig and without her pearls. Um, I have their mugshots.
Oh, good. I can't wait to see.
She does it. Yeah, you can see the hairline is just like up there. I think I also have their house where they were. If you want to see that.
I do.
Yeah.
That was a house.
Huh?
Oh wow. Oh
Where am
wow.
I?
Look at her. She
Where
doesn't
am I?
look
The mugshot.
aged at all.
Right? That face is tight. It's
The
tight.
magic
Good
of
plastic surgeons.
the magic of plastic surgery. I can't believe this guy
Yeah.
stayed with her throughout. Like, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
At
He
no
was good.
point did he think bad
He
idea.
was docile. He was docile. He was a docile little handbag. Um, let's see this is their house in the Catskills.
It's a creepy house.
Um, yeah, I know. Like it's a cute little house. It's just not assuming.
It looks like
You would know that
ghosts
the culture
live
is
in that
there.
house for sure.
It looks like what?
Ghosts live in that house.
Okay, so they finally find them. So they're extradited to Australia and they're charged with conspiracy to defraud and to commit perjury by falsely registering the births of three unrelated children as their own triplets.
Oh.
That's what they can get them on. They
Why
think.
can't they get them on the rest? Just can't.
Um they can't so we'll get into it.
Okay.
Um so as I'm sure you've guessed from every other step of the way, there are lots of really high powered lawyers in this cult
Okay.
and people in the justice system. So they start bargaining. They start with the plea agreement, they start whittling the charges down. And the Hamilton Burns ended up pleading guilty to one charge of making a false declaration, and they paid a fine of $5,000 each. And that was it. They paid one $5,000 fine, and that's it. They never served a day in jail. They
Wait,
never had any other consequences.
never?
No, that was it.
So
That was it.
what about the kid? None of the kids could like sue them for like.
I think later a couple of kids did sue them. Yeah.
Okay.
But
I
that
still
was
don't understand what her like thing was. Like obviously it was stealing
yeah.
kids, like she wanted kids, she was dark about it, but like what was her belief system?
I think I saw mentioned somewhere in just one place and never saw it again that the children were told that they were going to survive an apocalypse and rebuild the earth. So she was training them to be like a great new society. Um, which is gross because she also told them that they are biological brothers and sisters and that they're all related. Um, so
Yeah.
ew,
Yeah.
rebuilding
I
society.
almost like don't believe that she even pretended to believe what she was like doling. Like I don't know she doesn't seem to believe in anything like truly.
Right. Is she a grifter or is she a mad woman?
Because even with her kids, like if you really wanted kids and you wanted them to look a certain way, I don't know what the point is of torturing them. I don't know.
Right. Right. Unless it's just control or like building those exact little automaton like perfect little robots who will do what you want kind of a thing.
It's weird though because she like kept them separate. Like, yeah, it's just weird. Like she didn't really use them for anything later,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? She just seemed to want, but not to really.
Yeah.
I
They may have been like brought out at times. She did an interview at one point with one of the news magazine shows in Australia and she was like, "Oh, I just love children. I'm just helping children." And
Mm-mm.
everyone was like, "Nothing to see here."
No, I
Um,
do not love children.
it's just easy to give them all the same haircut and bleach their hair. Controls the lice outbreaks. Just put some bleach on
Yeah,
it.
but she was probably never around those children too. Like
Um, well,
it
she
doesn't.
was some of them because she had her little
Oh,
squad of
right,
like
she had
favorites.
favorites. Right.
Yeah. So the authorities who were responsible for bringing them in and actually all of this stuff, they were asked like, how do you feel about this? Is this a success or a failure? Because all she did was pay a fine and charge to a declaration. And they actually do view it as a success and not a failure. And partly because this is what I said before, you were asking about before, partly because if they were to bring some of the other charges, it would have required the children to testify.
Mm.
And obviously, all of them were horrifically abused. Some
Right.
of them were so traumatized by the LSD, they would not have been reliable witnesses or didn't even know what was happening to them. And
Okay.
yeah, so it really wouldn't be worth it what they would do, how it would re traumatize the children to do this on the chance that it would be anything else.
Right. Like
And then,
like them getting jail time wouldn't do anything. Like it wouldn't be a good enough thing to like help the children in any way, basically.
right,
Like the harm
it
that would
wasn't a
come with testifying would be worse.
slam dunk enough that they
Okay.
would want to do it to the children.
Which is
And
weird. You would think it would be. Like there's so much evidence.
yeah, I don't know. But they said they just having her in court pleading guilty was good enough. That was
Okay.
catharsis for them, and that was fine.
Okay. It
And
must
then
be. It must. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, no,
I'll say it after. Hey, Bo.
hi, cat. No, so then Anne goes right back to the cult and is like, okay, let's steal some more babies because we're out of babies. And people are like, no, 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 this is not happening. The baby stealing phase of this organization has ended, ma'am. Um,
I can't believe
sorry,
she went
Jesus.
back in to double dip.
Yeah. She's like, gotta get more babies. They took them. Um, yeah. So Sarah, the girl who was tossed out and went straight to the authorities, she
Yeah.
wrote a book called Unseen, Unheard, Unknown. And that was actually the group's motto. It was
Oh,
very like first rule of cult club is you don't say anything about
don't
cult
talk
club.
about Coke Club.
Unseen, unheard, unknown. That was their mantra. That
Wow.
was published in 1995, right after the trial. She became a doctor and she worked with refugees around the world. She
Oh.
actually also ended up forgiving the Hamilton burns. She met with Bill before his death and she spoke to Anne. She went to Anne's house and talked to her. I don't think she could have kids of her own. I saw somewhere that they had a daughter, or maybe they either did or didn't have a daughter in her first marriage. And then she had a bunch of miscarriages. So I don't think that she could have had kids.
Mm.
And it's just way less efficient. So she, like the Sarah girl, actually went and spoke to them.
Mm.
In 2013, it's reported that Anne is in a nursing home with dementia. And so for the documentary where they're interviewed for this podcast, and it came out in 2013, the filmmakers actually went to see her in
Ooh.
the nursing home.
Wow.
And right now she can't do an interview because she can't consent because of the dementia.
Right, right, right.
But it's very eerie, they say, when they describe it, because she was still put together. She was still carrying herself with like class. Her
Hmm.
speech was unclear. She wasn't coherent.
Right.
And she would spend her days cradling a baby doll,
Oh no.
which, right. So, which that's normal for dementia patients. They tend to
Right,
like
right,
give them
right.
a baby doll, they'll give them a
Yeah.
teddy bear. They tend to like that. But in this case, like read the room, nursing home. That is
Wow.
weird. That is weird.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't think anyone would find out.
Right. And Anne Hamilton Byrne died of dementia in a nursing home on June 3rd of 2019.
Whoa. So
And
she
I don't
only
remember. I
lived to
feel like I might have
100.
heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
And
guess
that
having a cold and lots of plastic surgery gives you life.
yeah. Yeah, she was 98,
Yeah.
97, 97,
Well,
98,
depending on when
98.
she died. If she died on like it, what was she born on the 31st? So she's probably 97.
Oh, right, she hadn't turned 98, but
Right.
97, yeah. And that is the story of the family, the 30-year cult in Australia. She led it for 30 years. It's still a thing today.
What do people
Um,
do in that cult today?
they apparently it's just like they called it a toothless tiger in one of the stories. It's just like there's a lot of money because she amassed a lot of money, so they're like around and I guess they hang out, but like
What do they
there's no baby
do?
stealing. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I
Their
still
church
don't
is
know
still
what they're
standing.
saying. I want to know what their like whole like a cult has a mantra or something or like a point. They have no point.
Yeah, unless it's like baby stealing. I don't know.
Then they're not doing that anymore, or are
Right,
they?
right, right. They better not be. But they can't do LSD anymore. So they just do you think they're just like smoking pot in the church and just
They're
whatever?
just doing some improv.
Yeah, right. So that's that. That's that
Wow.
about that.
That is crazy. What a difference in theme and direction. Like there's some hallmarks of the other cults that we've seen, but definitely different slant
Right.
because of the woman leader. And again, it baffled me. I will never I've listened to so many cult stories. I will never get them. I just don't understand how like I do understand mind control. I do
Yeah.
understand being groomed. Like I understand all of that. But I can't understand how one person isn't like, hold up.
Right.
Something weird. Like what's her name from Keith Raniere, The Vanguard, that one girl,
Right.
just like something is weird. I'm uncomfortable. Like there has to be somebody, but maybe they don't say anything out of fear.
And, if you see everyone around you having a great time and not being uncomfortable, then you're less likely to say anything. And I think when people do speak out, if they test the waters and speaking out, they get put in with the true believers who will tell
Right.
them.
So you think there's
So
a lot of faking it, like a lot of like I'm gonna pretend I'm in this because I can't get out of it, or
I don't necessarily think it's faking it. I think it's the mind game of them being like, no, no, you're wrong. Everything's fine. And they're like, okay, I guess I was being weird. I guess everything is fine.
I'm so skeptical that I just like I guess I can't see because I'm so skeptical. I would be like, what is this? What is this? What are we doing?
Oh, I don't know.
um,
Oh,
yeah. Why is everybody kissing the ass of that really gross, creepy guy?
right.
I'm very
Right. But she was a fancy lady. She was a
He was
fancy lady.
fancy. I almost can see that more than like a Keith Raniere. I look at Keith Raniere and I'm like, he is disgusting, and he's not saying anything. He's just talking in circles. Like I'm,
Well, you didn't watch the Stars one.
and I didn't play volleyball with him. So
No, so in the Stars one, there is a lot of like MRA type
okay,
shit. It's very, very misogynist, just incredibly misogynist.
because I like I can kind of see how she could get people into her cult in the beginning with the yoga and the fancy ladiness. Because like who doesn't kind of admire a fancy lady? Like
Right,
everybody.
right.
But I think once the shit happens, like once there's kidnapping of babies, somebody's got to be like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
Okay? But maybe because, like you said, there's a lot of money coming in. People will overlook things for money.
and
Think,
she was probably telling them that she adopted them. Like,
oof.
there's a lot of money, and she's adopting children, and we never see them, but she's our leader, and we think she's Jesus, and we think she's so kind. Like,
Mhm,
how could she harm them? She's so kind and wonderful. She's always nice to me.
mhm. Yeah,
Um,
I didn't see it. She was nice to me. Um,
yeah,
I realize that it makes me sound like I think I'm better. I don't. I just feel like I'm not a joiner, so I don't know like that I would like I don't like people telling me what to do. That would be the first thing. Like somebody would be like, you have to cut
yeah.
your hair, and I'd be like, no.
Like, I'm just not.
What do
Yeah,
you do
same.
with news? And I'd be like, mm-mm. Or
Yeah.
date this man. Nope, no, I don't.
I have an anti-authoritarian streak as long as the day, as wide as the day is long, and it's just like
It's the thing, like, yeah, if
I
they wanted you to like you to be like everybody else, you'd be like,
yeah,
I don't think so.
like I desperately want to belong,
Hmm.
um, but I don't want to obey.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, which is why I'm so lonely. Um,
No, but you want to belong on your own terms. You don't want
yeah,
to, yeah, like fall
right,
in line and become like, yeah.
right,
Um, yeah, that's how it is. And I just feel like, and like, I feel like you would be the same way. Like, you would be looking around, like, I'm skeptical about this. Why is everybody blindly accepting this? This doesn't make
yeah.
any, because when I listen to cold rantings, they don't make any sense. And I'm like, I don't get this. Why is nobody like,
Well,
I'm
that's
confused.
so by that time, everyone's so deep in that nothing
Right.
makes sense anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah,
guess so. Because I'm always just like, yeah, I would be like, I don't understand. Maybe it's me, but I don't understand what's going on here. Like, I'm very confused by your beliefs.
Yeah.
They seem made up.
Yeah, like, "So she's Jesus, and I have to give her money?" Oh, I just
But I started listening to, and there's no reason I stopped listening to it other than I just fell out of it. But there's one a podcast called something about the cult was Franklin Jones, and it's a guy whose parents he grew up with his parents in this cult, and
Mm,
it was in the 60s as well. And I think that what they described was like really just wanting a sense of like belonging,
mhm.
looking for enlightenment and answers. And I like again, I don't know because I wasn't around then, but it seemed a lot like that's what people were. I could see how cults would become
Yeah,
popular at that time because people were looking for guidance and I'm not saying they're not now, but the world is so different now and we have so
yeah,
much different information. Whereas then you're just really seeking someone who's like, yeah, going to give you the answers that make sense
yeah.
to you. And like,
Yeah, this is the beginning of the rise of the counterculture.
right,
So, at
yes.
this time, society in America had been or mass society, like public society, had
Yeah.
been very homogenous. It was like Donna Reed, it was very white and middle class,
Hmm.
and, it was kind of the values were presented were the same, and
Hmm.
that started to break down, and
Yes.
so it would lead you if the ground is shifting under your feet, you do look for something that's a little more stable, and then people would find these cult leaders who would offer them that.
Yeah. Cause it was like, yeah, it was a time period where people, like, there was always this, like, you fit in a box. And then people were like, well, I don't fit in the box, but I'm going to act like I fit in the box. And then
Mhm.
it was okay not to. But then once you sort of unleash that, it's sort of like, well, then
Right.
where do I fit and who am I?
Right.
And I think that,
Someone
yeah.
comes along and is like, "What if no box?" And
Yeah.
then you're like, "What if no box?
Right.
Like,
Right.
then what am I in?"
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a universal question because for years, I've thought about like, what is my purpose? Like, do we have a specific purpose or do we have just a general purpose? And then what is mine? Like, why, not why am I here, but what is this for? Right. Like,
Right.
what
Right.
can I do? Because you think about not necessarily like I don't mean it in terms necessarily of mortality, but you do think about like, okay, so like I'm this age, like what, how do I start to like file it all together, put it all together, and what do I need to do at this point? Like what haven't I done that I need to do, and like what is it all for? And I have a lot of those questions. Like I
Mhm.
always think like, what is the purpose? And I think especially when I hear people die, like people that I know or people that are like famous or whatever, you think like, did they live out their purpose or what was their purpose? Or like if you die in a sudden or tragic way or like an unexpected way, does that negate, I have like all these questions about that. And so maybe it's a universal question. And maybe if you encounter the right person at the right time who is charismatic and seems to know things,
Yeah.
you can easily be swayed.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing they said about her was that when she would meet a new person she wanted to recruit, she'd go up to him and say, "Oh, there you are. I've been waiting for you."
Uh,
Which is very like,
hmm.
"Oh, if you're lonely, that's all you wanna hear."
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
sounds like she gave people a sense of belonging
Mhm.
and didn't really like, from your research, it wasn't heavy on the message. It was more heavy on the community.
The group, yeah.
Like people wanted, like to
Which is
belong to
interesting.
them.
And maybe that's, like, how women are socialized, an interesting difference in the lady cult.
Yeah. Yeah, because men usually, and I'm generalizing and I'm stereotyping, but in general, men take agency, right? They have like they know the answer, they know the solution, they feel comfortable taking agency. Where a woman's just like, oh, we'll figure it out together,
Yeah.
kind of
The
thing.
the answer was the community.
Yeah,
That and a lot of LSD. So much
and
LSD.
just a bunch of kids.
Yeah, just some stolen babies. You couldn't tell who was who because they all looked exactly the same, especially when you were tripping balls. Uh,
But again, like yeah, like that's another. in my experience as a mom, a female thing that everyone's got a bunch of kids and you get together and the kids go off and run around until they're like they need a drink of water and then they come back and then they
Yeah.
go off. And the women, it's been classically women. It's not usually, there can be men in the group, there can be
Yeah.
NBs in the group, but in general, it's a bunch of women sitting around talking and their kids run away and play. And that's sort of kind of like how the family is. You have the group and then you have the kids,
Hmm.
and they're taking care of themselves because the moms get a minute. And that's kind
Right.
of, in the beginning, maybe you're thinking like, oh, I get a break, I get help with my kids. And then you realize like, I
Yeah.
haven't seen my kids in 20 years.
Right. And I don't recognize them because they look like every other kid.
Which was mine? Oh, it's the blonde one.
Last time I saw her, she was fourth tallest, and now she's tallest. That's
It's a
all I
blonde
know.
with the fringe. That's my boy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's definitely interesting. She definitely knew how to use her image, and
Yeah.
it seems like when she got that doctor guy, the one that she went to his house and told him that she was Jesus,
Mhm.
it seems
Mhm.
like so she was getting smart people in there,
Yeah. And
teachers,
he was still doing speaking tours.
right?
So he would go out to do his speaking to his, like, metaphysics speaking tours and be like, "By the way, I met the reincarnation of Jesus."
Yeah, I mean, to be quite frank with you, if Dr. Fauci was like, I met Jesus,
Yeah.
I would be
I'd
like,
be like, "Of course you did. Of
first I'd
course."
be like, is Dr. Fauci okay? But then I'd be like, tell me
Yeah.
more.
"What did
There-
he say? Is he okay?" Like,
so, like, smart people, you tend to want to trust them because,
if someone has authority, they're way more likely to be believed.
so
And
she
he
kind of
had
knew,
that.
she knew what she was doing, which is
Yeah.
like, that's what a cult leader does. They're very charismatic and they're smart.
Yeah.
I still maintain I will not join a cult. Don't,
Well, we'll see.
don't trick me into a cult.
I I don't know.
Because I'll be like, wait, is this a cult?
In the 60s, why wasn't she fleecing famous people? They buy
Yeah.
into the bullshit. Yeah, I don't think she was close enough to celebrity culture in Australia. I think it was just a matter of geography. It was just very much this area.
Yeah, was there a big celebrity culture in Australia to begin with?
Yeah. I
Like,
mean,
would Nicole Kidman join today if it had been a different time?
it
Yeah,
What did
why
you
did she do it in the first place? That was my question too, and it felt like I don't know
some
why she
people
did it.
some
Yeah.
people just like to feel special.
Hmm.
I mean, she had all of these people thinking she was great and listening to her every word and, giving her money,
Yeah,
and
we could start with the yoga. So she was teaching yoga, and she's really feeling
she expanded her brand. On Instagram today, she would have had millions of followers.
right, right,
She was an influencer, and
right.
that's what she did.
And also, let's see, with her childhood with her mom, she didn't get a lot of attention because her mom was institutionalized, right? And the
Right.
dad
She
wasn't
wasn't with her dad.
to go to foster homes. So that's the ultimate and right? Like a neglected kid just wants love,
Attention. Yeah,
affection, and attention. And
yeah,
kids will in her mind, having kids is going to give you that, but she doesn't really know how to have kids because she was never really
right,
parented. So she
right.
sort of like has a very skewed version of the idea of what it means to parent.
Yeah,
And, she doesn't really, she just, yeah, that's what I would say. Attention. It seems like.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think it's
yeah.
baffling. I think it's really compelling, these cult leaders, because I like anyone who deceives people like in this on this level for their own like, are they mentally unwell or are they just devious?
Are they genius grifters? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your mom's saying famous people need lots of attention and praise so cults wouldn't work for them. That's how Scientology really gets
Yes.
that right.
Yes.
Um, because and if you watch the Leah Remini series, all my information comes from there. But they have the celebrity center where
Mhm.
if you're a certain tier, you get to go. And even within the celebrity center, once you have access to it, there are tiers. Like she at one point was not allowed to look at Tom Cruise when he was in the building. He was in the same building. And like you're not, it's very like hierarchical. So you can be, if you're a celebrity, you get that praise from the cults, from Scientology. um,
And
because
also
you get all those perks.
the money, like paying more and more, like that you can
Yeah.
afford to go to the next level. So I think cults can work for them if they prey upon that thing, which is attention and praise and wealth. Like,
Right.
can you afford the next level? Can you make it to the next level? Because like,
Right.
who wouldn't want, if you're like focused on that? Who
Right.
wouldn't want to be able to make it to the next level?
And that's how Nexium did it. They were after India Oxenford's mom
Hmm.
because she was an actress who had connections to the royal family, and
Right.
they would like praise her. They were all her friends. They wanted to do stuff. They set stuff up at her house. They don't have to live on the grounds. No, they don't have to live on the grounds. The celebrities. Um, yeah, they get special. They don't see the bad side of the cult because they are needed to give the cult legitimacy. They have to be the people out there because they have such a big platform to say, no, this group is actually great. We're doing great things. Here's my experience and how wonderful it is,
Yeah.
so that other people aren't believed and it's harder to leave.
Yeah. And I think that's why you get like a Tom Cruise, because he's very insulated, right?
Yeah.
And isolated from all the other stuff. Therefore, he doesn't believe the other stuff. It's very weird. It's same thing with like John Travolta, right? You're sort of like,
Yeah.
you're put in a bubble and you're praised and you're lifted up, but you're not really working with the other stuff. So you almost can't believe that that would really happen. Like you just think that that's, and
Right.
you're told that that's not true. So you sort of don't
Right.
even have to interact with it.
Right. It's like all the dude friends who don't think their dude friend could be a creep to women.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
that, but on a huge scale. Yeah.
Yes. With, you know what? We, this is just a sidebar.
Plus,
Uh,
Scientology has all your secrets. Right.
because they make
Right.
you audit, and so they make you confess everything, which would be like a nightmare.
Yeah.
And they really go after you. Like if when you watch Leah Remini's, if you watch Going Clear, you get it. If you watch Leah Remini's, it's
Yeah.
excellent. I highly recommend it. You really see what happens, and it's so distressing. And they take your family away from you, right? So
Yep.
they
That's that breakdown of the family again. They send the kids off to Scientology school for a while there. If you were in the Sea Org, you weren't allowed to have kids.
right,
So if
and
someone got pregnant, they either had to resign from Sea Org or get an abortion.
right. And if your family is in it and you want to leave, they will tell your family to disconnect from you. So your
Right.
own children won't talk to you, your mother won't talk to you.
Right.
It's so, you have to be so strong. That's what's so good about Leah Remini's work is she's creating almost a network for people who are
Mhm.
basically networkless.
Yeah.
They've lost everything, but gained everything by leaving,
Yeah.
but feel like they've lost
And they have their own internet. So they are not allowed to see, because
everything.
if you even look at something that's damning or critical of the church, you have to go into auditing because you're not, that's your what, you're in something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I know. Yeah,
Uh,
I know what you, I know in
it's like it's weird. It's like in
the
status or
word,
like
the
in
word for it.
yeah.
Yeah. It's so bizarre. But it's they've gotten money by claiming that they're a church, so they're exempt from taxes. So they have
Yeah. And the
they
fascinating thing about that is they have to be you have to be a not-for-profit
yeah.
if to get tax exempt status. So they get all this money and they have to that's why they own so much land. They're like building all these buildings and buying all this land because they can't show a profit on their tax return.
And so they have empty cities. It's just like a
Yeah.
city of gorgeous buildings with nothing in
Just
them.
nothing.
No
Yeah.
people. It's so there's one by my brother. My brother lives in Clearwater,
Oh
or
yeah,
near
that's Scientology
Clearwater, not
City.
in, but near. And it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is amazing. My mom said like that people fall for it, but you know what? It's like the cult that you're in knows how to cater to your
Right.
specific. Like they're good at manipulating a specific kind of person,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially if you are like somebody who's looking for answers or don't like you feel lost or you feel like maybe you don't have family or maybe you don't feel like you have friends or you know you're
Yeah.
sort of you move to a new city and you don't know anybody. Like it's very easy, I think, to be manipulated if
Yeah.
you are isolated, or if somebody, these people are very very good at
They are.
at bringing you in. Like I joke about it, but I really think that I think we all could be coerced depending on the cult. If there was a cult about like napping in true crime, I'd be in it. And you wear your pajama pants? I'm in.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's start a cult.
No,
Um,
I could never do it. I could never be cruel to people. I just couldn't. I don't.
yeah.
It's too much work.
Well,
And
it's so
yeah,
you get in it because you think you're helping people.
yeah. Do
I
you
mean, look
though?
at Nexium. Well, look at Nexium.
Do you
I
think he really thought he was helping people?
who?
Keith Raniere?
Well, no, but the people who joined.
Right, 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 right,
It's yeah, and even Scientology is like clear the world is their thing.
right, right, right,
So it's you get into it because like I've said it many times, I watched the first episode of HBO's The Vow about Nexium going, "Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I would have fallen for that shit. I would have been hook, line, and sinker."
Mhm.
Um, like absolutely, I think.
In the begin like, you don't know what you would because you don't I don't think you see it coming. I don't think you would
Right. It's
head
just
out.
classes.
Yeah. Like,
Right.
the Franklin Jones one, that was like they went to go see this guy speak at a bookstore.
Yeah. It's
Um
just it's at first it's classes, and it's like classes on how to be your best self, and you're like, "Great." And
Mhm,
then you take more classes, and then it's retreats, and you go away for the weekend. And it's like, "Great." And then it you just more and more of a commitment.
mhm. I met all
And
these friends. Oh,
right.
good,
And
yay.
now my entire social circle is this group, and if I leave, that's gonna be a consequence. So I don't want that pain of leaving. Yeah.
Mhm. And like I'm accepted and people like me and I have something to believe in and and aspire to. Like it gives you a goal.
Yeah.
Usually like there's like books and classes and things like that. And so you just sort of
Yeah.
become because think about it, like we joke about it, but like, I like went all in for improv because it was fun and it was you make friends
Yeah.
and you're taking classes and you like I don't think it's not a cult, but it has that idea of like belonging and fun and I found people who I could connect with and like I was watching Dateline last night and this guy was like super into dancing and that's how he met his so it was a Dateline story so it ended with murder but or started with murder and then you found out who did the murdering, which by the way I knew from the first interview, but that's neither
Good
here.
for you.
Uh, but like he went all in on this guy went all in on like he took a dance class and then before you know it he's dancing with his girlfriend in the Home Depot. Like I think people want to
Yeah.
feel connected and so they look for something and sometimes that thing just happens to be a cult.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that too. Sometimes I get kind of into something and I'm like, I am way into this now. Like, I'm gonna learn everything about this. I did it with Dragon Age. The lots of people who want to escape from real life for one reason or another. And the cults mapped out life in a box, right? Exactly. And isolating you from your family and your friends and your support system and society is how they keep you.
Yes. Yeah.
So
It's when it becomes dangerous, like when it becomes like taking your life away kind of thing, that's where, but like again, you're in too deep and either you're embarrassed, you're not sure.
it's yeah, and it's when the secrets start because there's always a point where they're like, you can't tell anyone else about this. We're gonna let you in on the secret you can't tell.
Mhm.
You
Also,
can't
we
tell
need
your family.
yeah. Also, we need, we know this damaging secret about you and will expose you to the world.
Right.
Colds,
Cults.
man. Colds.
Let's make a New Year's resolution to not join a cult in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Do
that.
not. And then to help your friends, if you see your friend joining a cult,
Yeah.
just
Point
you
it out.
don't have to like intervene. You can just like in a difficult way, you could just be like, "That sounds scary."
Yeah, right? Like,
Oh,
hey, that sounds like a cult.
yeah.
Just so you know, just putting that out there.
I don't want to hurt your feelings, but please watch this
Gently.
movie called Going Clear, and then see how you feel afterward.
Right. Right. Be like, listen, Andrea would have definitely fallen for Nexium. You don't have to feel bad, but you
Right.
are in a cult.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
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 Shout out to all the cult members who watch our show. But there are a few Brooklynites who join cults who trust no one.
It's true. I wonder if it's dependent on like I wonder if you did a because they all seem to be like middle of nowhere kinds of things. Like you don't get a
Yeah.
do you get cults in cities? Maybe they start
Um,
there, but then they head out.
well, Scientology's LA.
Right.
Um,
LA is like not. not real.
It's so weird. LA is so weird.
It's not
Don't
real.
even brag on LA. It's yeah, it's just so yeah, I can imagine Brooklynites be like, up yours.
Mhm.
I'm the reincarnation of Jesus. Nah, fuck off.
Yeah, they would be like, "Who do you
I
do?"
I mean, I was gonna say that about Philly, but we had a cult.
We did? Which one?
We did. It was way, way long ago. It was the Kelpius, the Doomsday Cult. It was in like the 18th century.
Okay. I
Um,
barely,
that's
barely heard
fascinating.
about this, but yeah.
That is fascinating. You can still visit their cave in Wissahickon Valley Park,
Mhm.
where the dude lived. He was like a hermit. Their guru was a hermit. And he prophesied the end of days to be, I think it was the century. It's supposed to be like the turn of the century. He's going to like, that's doomsday. And then it didn't happen. And then he had to like retool his brand. Um, so,
Do you
oh,
know that there
there
is
was
a
that Camden cult. There was a cult they were a doomsday cult. And it was, I think it was 12/21/12. They were one of those.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they ended up buying one of the radio stations I used to work at, used to spread
Love
their message.
I love it.
They sold them an AM frequency, and
I
that family bought
There
yeah.
is a myth out there, and my friend Patrick and I laugh about it all the time when, like, especially this year, that we all actually, sorry, I'm dropping things all over. We all actually did die in 2012, and that
Yes.
this is hell. And like,
Yes.
anytime I see a news story, like, less so now because all the news stories are bad, but before times, we would always be like, "Oh my God, we are dead!" Like, there's a headline that was so absurd that we were like, this cannot be real life.
Like murder hornets, that's not real life. Yeah, so Michael brings up an important tip for cult leaders.
Yes.
If you're gonna be a doomsday cult, you have to put it in the future. You gotta get a couple decades out of it.
Right. Like where
Um,
you're going to be old and frail or like, yeah. But yeah, seriously, cults. Yeah, cults are endlessly intriguing. I could listen to stories about cults all day long. I just think that they're so mysterious. Um,
yeah.
I would be interested to learn if any Brooklynites ever fell for a cult. I'm sure they have,
Well, probably Nexium. Didn't they move to New York City?
but
Or were they just Albany?
they were upstate. Yeah, right.
Oh, right, they were Albany. Oh, that's right, that's right. I don't know. Who's from I'm trying to think anyway.
Yeah,
Leah Remini feels like a Brooklynite, but she got out, so
yeah,
maybe that's
yeah.
what
And also, her mom, she was raised in it.
she was second generation, yeah,
That
yeah.
I think that's harder. I think when you're raised in it, it's
It
harder
definitely
because
is.
that was your childhood.
That's what people say about Elizabeth Moss. Um,
Oh,
be
was
to
she
d
raised in Scientology? I always
she's
wondered
a
about her. Yeah.
she's a second gen Scientologist, yeah, so a lot of times people will be like, "Well, how can you not ask her? She's in The Handmaid's Tale. Ask her about the cult that she's in,
Hmm.
where they treat people the same way." And other people are like, she's second generation, so it's kind of,
Yeah. You
it's
don't know
not,
what
it's
she's been
not,
through. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't justify it. But
Yeah.
why did Leah? I don't remember. Did she? I don't
Oh,
know if I got to the part
yeah,
yet.
you know what? It's so funny because I've watched so much of it and now it's like she just I think started it was when you move up the ladder things stop making sense.
Hmm.
It becomes with Scientology it becomes like as you move up, I believe this is it. You're paying more and more money and it's like this is like money I'll never have kind of money that they're
Hmm. Hmm.
and then I think that the mythology becomes more and more unbelievable, like the beings, like the aliens and the volcanoes. And I think they don't say what it is, but it becomes her mom talks about it. When her mom got to a certain level, her mom was like, what the hell is this? Like,
Yeah,
I don't believe this. And I
yeah,
think Leah gets to the same point. I think she gets to where she's spending all this money and she's realizing, oh, and then that Paul Haggis, right? That director comes out
yes, right. He came
all
out
this stuff.
before,
And I
right?
think she was already feeling it. And I think it was sort of like a couple of other people came out and she had been feeling that way. And then
Yeah.
yeah.
And they set themselves up for failure too, Scientology, because as you get farther and farther and farther up the bridge, they tell you you're supposed to be able to do things like move things with your mind or like cure any disease with your positive thinking. So like, and when you can't do that, I mean, I guess they can fall back on the old, well, you didn't do it good enough. You're in whatever, and you have to go to auditing. That's why you can't move things with your mind.
Right.
Um, and so they every so often they'll say, "Oh, we just discovered new works of
Yes.
Elrond's, and
Yeah.
now the levels have changed. So you have to go and do your levels again. So
Yes.
basically, you have to pay money to do the exact same thing again. It's
Right.
never done. You're never done. When you get up here, they're like, "No, you got to go back here because it's different now," but it's not
Right.
really.
And I think if you're smart enough, you start to put two and two together like this
Right.
feels like a scam.
Or even kind of just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's like not fun. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating to
Mhm.
take that on your money. But
Yes.
then they make everyone go to the big assemblies.
Right.
They force everyone to attend this presentation where David Miscavige gets on stage and they show this video of like, here's the amazing things we did. And it's like, we ended wars in 9 countries and we fed 8 million hungry children and we cured cancer 87,000 times. And they don't give any proof, but you're watching this like, oh, okay, so all my sacrifice is actually doing stuff. Maybe they should. I mean, seriously,
They're
like,
probably working on
right,
it.
right. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. When you're presented with the evidence of the real world, it's like it falls apart. Like the whole
Yeah.
Tom Cruise thing, he was yelling at people for not wearing masks on the set of Mission Impossible. But people were pointing out that Tom Cruise is so high in Scientology that he's supposed to be able to cure coronavirus with his mind if he gets it.
Right.
Like Scientologists are like, I don't get so much as a cold because I'm on X level of the bridge.
Right. And they're also very anti mental health, which I think is so
Yes.
damaging. So
And
think
it's
about it. You have people in there who probably need mental health. Obviously, in every walk of society, there's people like that, and they're not getting it. And they're told, like, if you need that, there's something wrong with you.
and
So,
it's for the dumbest reason why too. Do you remember the reason? Because L. Ron Hubbard presented Dianetics to psychologists. He presented it to like the Psychologist Association and was like, this could really help you. I'm giving you this thing. And they laughed him out of the room.
of
And
course.
then he was like, screw you. I'm going to be a petty dickhead. And that's why all these people have to suffer now.
You know what's funny is I remember those commercials, not like when I was a kid, those Dianetics commercials were on all the time.
Yeah.
And I never understood what they were. And now they're on less, but who needs therapy?
Right. Right. You just need to hold your little cans. You hold your little cans and they're like this wide too. So you like, hold your little cans and you do your lie detector type thing. And they're like, well, you have too many thetans. That's why you got COVID.
Oh my God.
Got to go down to this level and pay your way back up the
Yeah,
bridge.
yeah. I just can't imagine taking advantage of people like that. It makes me sick. Yes, the commercials were scary, and it doesn't explain what Dianetics are. So you're just
Right.
like, do I need to know? But I'm a kid, so I have no access to it. There's no internet. So I was like, what
Right.
is Dianetics? And
It
now
was end of the world vibes. Yeah. Yeah. It
yeah,
was.
yeah. It used to be like there's also a lot of the now I'm seeing so there were also a lot of LDS commercials when I was a little kid, which you don't see anymore. But now I
Mm,
see a lot of commercials that are just like they don't have a company and it's about like you could tell it's either a cult or some sort of weird like Jesus thing because
yeah.
there's no ad, there's no discernible product, but it's like somebody like like broken down in a car, and then like an old man in overalls fixes the car, and then there's something about trust and light, and you're like, oh,
Right.
this is
It's
something.
it's very self help. Yeah.
Yeah, and something is
Yeah.
happening here, but like it's clearly not a church advertising Jesus. Like that doesn't happen. So it's clearly somebody up to no good. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it does have end of the world vibes. That whole
Hmm.
volcano exploding,
Yeah.
now we know is just aliens.
Right.
Yeah. Colts if you have not watched Going Clear, it is
Yeah.
like it's a one like it's not a multi episode docu series. It's one movie, and it does a really good job of sort of explaining it. And then Leah Remini's is multi episode, and
Yeah.
she talks to people who got out of Scientology, and their stories are heartbreaking.
Yeah. Just like- also, and I'm not calling Mormonism a cult here. I want to preface what I'm about to say. I am not calling present day Mormonism a cult at all. But the book Under the Banner of Heaven is
Oh,
very, very, very good too.
yeah.
It's about fundamentalism,
Hmm.
which exists in all religions and
Yeah.
kind of operates the same way. And it's also about the history of the religion, and it was very culty around Joseph Smith.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's
there's
this
a lot
the
of interesting
original
stuff.
story, yeah, starts out with cult overtones.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I didn't mean to
but it's a
insinuate
really good
that
book.
LDS commercials have anything to do. I just thought it was weird that there used to be commercials for that on.
Yeah,
You don't usually see commercials for a religion. Like,
right. The Roman Catholics,
yeah,
give us a
the
try.
Catholic, like there's nothing like that. In
Free
fact, they're
snack.
like, we prefer you don't, unless you're doing all the things. Just stay home.
Uh, oh,
um,
you want to hear a fun fact about Catholics that is totally tangential?
mm.
My voice teacher is the professional singer who gets hired by church choirs, and that's some of her gigs. Like churches will have professional singers in their choir.
Oh
And I was
wow,
like, I have never heard of that ever. And she's like, yeah, the Catholics never do it.
yeah,
It's
no,
the Episcopalians and the Lutherans will do it, and the Presbyterians, but the harder core, like charismatic Protestants will not do it, and the Catholics will not do it.
yeah, because it's sort of like cheating
Right.
to them because you need a
Yeah.
bad choir. You need a very off key bad choir, somebody who's good at the guitar and somebody who's good at the piano and a couple of good singers and then some really terrible singers and that's a Catholic
Oh
choir.
god, yeah. Um, yeah, I grew up with a very good church choir and an organist and an organ. So
Oh yeah, that's what I mean, organ, not
I
piano.
got the whole church treatment.
We had
So,
such a bad, but we like it was like a very small town church. It was like a terrible, absolutely terrible singing. I mean, sorry,
oh,
sorry. And but the music teacher was like so earnest and she tried so hard, but it was
oh.
like if you wanted to hear some really bad singing.
We were like hot shit in the choir, our family, because my dad always got cast as Jesus in the Easter cantata.
You were that
We
family.
were that family. I was like, my dad is Jesus. Go fuck yourself. You can't tell me anything. I'm not gonna shake your hand after the Our Father. My dad is God.
Now we can't do that.
No.
No, no,
Now you
no.
can't go to church at all.
In fact, Dr. Fauci says no more handshaking at all, which I, for one, am
That's
pleased about.
fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't need
I'm
to
okay with
shake
it.
anyone's hand.
I don't really need some dude trying to crush my hand to prove something
Right,
to himself.
right.
Because
Yeah,
they do that so much. And I'm
I
like, I
know.
lift weights, bruh. I can back squat you.
Also, like, what are you proving here? That you're stronger
Right.
than me? Cool.
That you have a good grip strength.
Yeah, yeah.
Way to
That
go, bud.
I'm 5 feet
Way to
tall
go.
and not as strong as like a 6 feet tall man. Sure,
Right.
cool. You
Right.
got it.
Yeah.
I I concede.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm very intimidated. Please have $1 million.
One time I was really mad. I'll never forget this. I was at a mass a long time ago and I forgot that I had gum in my mouth, but I wasn't like chewing it. I just kind of like
Mm,
had it in the
yeah.
side of my mouth. And the guy who was the police, the usher,
The police.
when it was time to do the handshaking, he squeezed my hand so hard that I thought he did damage and he was like, "Get your gum out of your mouth." And I was like, I hated that man so much. And
Yeah.
every time I saw him about town, I would tell him, like, that's the man who almost broke my hand. I was
Oh,
like, really? That's how, like, you're going to go after me for that? At
right. Right.
least I'm here, bro.
As the Bible says, take the plank out of your own eye before helping your neighbor with the
Yeah.
speck in
Also,
theirs.
it wasn't like chewing. Like, I forgot that I had it in my mouth. So I was just kind of,
Even if you were chewing gum, who cares?
how did he know I didn't have a condition?
Right? How did he know you didn't have chronic dry mouth?
Right.
There weren't any pharmaceutical ads for that back then. You would have been
also,
lost.
like, mind your own business. Like, leave people
Yes.
alone. Leave me
Yes.
alone. I'm not, like, killing people. Ugh, I hate
Ugh.
everybody.
Yeah. You should have been like, I needed something to say in confession.
Mind your own business. Like, over
Right.
just because you're the usher, it doesn't mean that you have like you're going to go to heaven. Like, you have more,
Right.
like you could be an usher and a really shitty person. And clearly he was.
Yeah.
But you would hurt my hand over it is crazy. Like I could see him being mad at me, but the hand hurting was like really sadistic, I thought.
Yeah.
Also
Um, I was in awe as a child of the basket people
unnecessary.
because
Basket
just
people.
trying to keep my breath fresh for the host. Right.
Yeah.
Your mom's is just trying to keep my breath fresh.
Yeah.
Why would you want to put Jesus in a stank ass mouth? That is the body of Christ. Peppermint fresh for our Lord and Savior who died on the cross to
Oh,
open the way to paradise.
were you mesmerized by how they could keep the baskets going? Is that what it was? Or were
Yeah.
they these kind? Did you
Yeah,
have?
oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, we had the fish kind, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pool thing, the fish kind, like the long see, Protestants get trusted to pass around the collection plate. Catholics, no. We have people who bring up the long pole that reaches halfway down the pew with a basket on the end, and it like goes by and you put your thing in as it goes by, like in a video game.
No, I've been to churches where you pass the basket yourself, but it's always like you always get the like, where's it going?
Oh,
Everyone does the same thing.
like when you're doing handouts in school and you're like, did you get it in the front? Did you get it in the back? To the side where I'm passing?
And then you're like looking at people because they'll be like, I already, and then you're like, do you need this? Does
Do you
everybody,
want it?
you
Do you
good?
want to put your money in the basket? Have you not put your money in the basket yet?
Yeah, most churches pass it now. Yeah, because it's like it's so weird to have a basket shoved in your face, and you're just like, it goes by.
Or yeah, or even worse, just sit there and go, mm-mm,
Yeah.
no, no money today, Jesus.
It's the worst. Like, yeah, yeah, because they do two collections sometimes, and so like
Yes.
you give both.
The
Did you
second.
remember cash? Right?
Well, I went to Catholic school, so we were given our own set of church envelopes
Yes. Yeah.
to put and I would put
Yeah.
my quarter allowance that my father gave me in the little envelope. And I used to love on special days, the envelope would be colorful and it would have like a picture of Mary on it. And be
Uh-huh.
like, I'm going to put you wrote your little name on it. And they keep track. They keep track. If you
Yeah.
have an envelope, they keep track of how much you give and the frequency.
We only had them for family, but my mom, I just never, it was such a classic thing. My mom would be like, Dan, do you have the envelope? And then they would like,
Yes.
and like if you didn't have cash, you had to write the check. And
Right.
oh gosh, it's so fun. Now I wonder if you could just Venmo like the basket guy.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh my God, I really now want an emoji with like the little basket. That would be so good.
All right.
They have online options for giving. Yeah.
Should we
Yeah.
do merch that says basket case with the basket?
Oh my God. Yeah. I forgot about that. And that is such a specific time and place thing. Like the basket with the,
Yeah.
oh, I'll never also forget, was it Coming to America? I don't know if you guys remember that movie where Eric LaSalle is the boyfriend and he's like really terrible and he's got a lot of money and they pass the basket and I think he puts his like chicken in the basket like and somebody else puts a ton of money and anyway, it's really funny. But I'll never when I think of basket passing for some reason I think of Coming to America.
If you give $25 to both basket passes, you can move nearly. Yes, that's a gift. That's we call that the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
So funny. Trips down memory
Oh
lane.
man,
Church lane.
Catholicism. It's funny because I'm not Catholic now, like practicing or believing. But I feel like culturally I will always be Catholic because
Yeah.
it's just seeped in there. Um,
One of the hardest I've ever laughed is during it was during Chimera show. And I think was it you and Sarah? Was it you and Sarah who did the church thing? Because Sarah started just doing like she started kneeling and then getting up. Like it was a silent scene. and she like kneeled and getting up, and then she would start like she started floss, like she did everything, every move possible because she like didn't know. It was so funny. It was a great scene because it was like if you're Catholic, you're just like, yeah. Because to anyone who's not Catholic, watching the moves of a Catholic church and watching
Right.
everybody know what to do when is like probably mind blowing. But we
In
all
a,
know exactly what to do when.
once in a duo with another Sarah, I made her say a Hail Mary and she's not Catholic. She had no idea what was going on. She was like, "What?" But in the scene, we were 2 kids in a Catholic school. It got to the point where the nun was like, "For your shame, you have to say a Hail Mary." And she was like, what did you do?" Give me, like, the devil eyes. She's like, I don't know that." So,
Yeah, it's definitely like a very like if you grew up going to church, you know all the stuff. Like there's
yeah.
definitely fun stuff in there. I'm saying you got it wrong. He didn't put money in. Oh, it was the black barber. That's right. He what did he put in? Did he put nothing in?
A chicken bone. He put his chicken bone in it, he wrote.
That was the black barber. He
Yeah.
said. I thought it was Eric
Oh,
LaSalle in that. That's right. He puts nothing in, and then she thinks he put a lot in because he's like the heir to the Soul Glow or something.
gotcha.
Movie, I'm
I
sorry, that movie is so funny to me, and I like it's such a classic. And
I've
I don't
never
know
seen it.
why. Oh, you've never
I've
it's
never
so
seen it.
funny. Yeah, it's like,
I should watch it. There's gonna be a sequel on Prime.
is there?
Yeah. He didn't
That's
put any
right.
money
He
in.
didn't put any money in. You're right. He passes and then the guy does. I'm sorry. I knew that there was that bit in there. But then Eddie Murphy puts the big thing in.
Mm.
He makes like little money. Yes.
Oh, well. There's also there's the cliche of the person who, puts in a 20 and then makes change.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh God.
Oh, Catholicism. Catholicism is the reason, and whenever I go out of the CVS, I am certain that the theft alarm is gonna beep even though I didn't steal anything, just because I can never know if maybe I've accidentally stolen something that I
Right?
don't know
You open
about.
it, like, and if
It's
it
the
goes
Catholic
off, you're like,
guilt.
I didn't, it must be, you're like
Right.
pulling out.
If it you're like, "What if I did? It's the Catholic guilt. What if I did? What if I'm secretly bad and wrong?"
I must have.
Yeah, that's how I got my job on air,
By
when I had
stealing?
to. Yes, by through Catholic guilt. No, I when I went to do my interview with the station manager, like the next level up before they would hire me or not, he was like, "Do you like feedback? Like, how are you with taking notes?" And I said, "Sir, I went to 9 years of Catholic school and 18 years of church. I will assume I am doing something wrong until I am told otherwise."
Yeah. That's what people don't understand that like my boss doesn't understand that if she writes me an email and says, "Can you stop by?" that I walk in like
Yeah,
this.
that's Trump,
She's
yeah.
like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just assume that I'm done something wrong."
That's a see me on your homework. No, I don't wanna see you. It's never told me I'm good.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
natural that you always just naturally think I'm in trouble. I've done something wrong and I'm in trouble.
Yeah, every Catholic has low level anxiety. It's like,
Yeah, it's the guilt.
yeah.
And if you grew up with an Italian mom, then you really have the guilt
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
sort of poured into you.
God. So I will not be going to mass on New Year's. I'm sure you can. um, happy 2021, everyone.
Yeah.
We are going to do a Friday show.
Yeah. I mean, do you
Are
want
we?
to?
Okay. Yeah. No, I can.
I really would love if you get a chance to watch The Ripper. If not, no
Yeah.
big. But I would love to talk about The Ripper. It's a 4-part series on Netflix. It's unique. It's told. It's a British crime about the Yorkshire Ripper, and I particularly want to talk about the feminism stuff that they talk about, especially like because it's crimes against women. So I highly recommend, even if you just watch like 1 or 2 episodes. I definitely was hooked on it. And then also I have a book. Oh, thanks, Harrison.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah, I put our merch link in the
Perfect.
chat. If
Yeah,
you want
now
to
we
get, we have
need a
some merch
basket.
up.
We need a money basket.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah, me too. I got some stuff.
I also have a book recommendation that I have. I still have to make my list of my other ones, but I have a book recommendation to put up on our Amazon list, and it's called. Let me look up the author. The book is called American Sherlock, and it's this by the same woman who does the podcast Tenfold More Wicked.
Ooh.
So it's oops. I just started playing it. Okay. Her name is Kate Winkler Dawson, and she is a journalist, but also a historical true crime writer. And
Okay.
American Sherlock is because it's true story. It's just this guy who basically was doing forensics in the 1920s, and
Okay.
she covers like a little bit of the Fatty Arbuckle case. She
Yeah.
covers like a bunch of old cases as she's telling the story of this guy who was basically a Sherlock Holmes, and it's so good. So I will get that information up on our Amazon. I can't recommend it enough. It's really really good.
I can't find it. I'm looking for it right now. Hold on. I spelled it wrong too. American Sherlock.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
murder forensics and the birth of something something.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. I'm adding that right now.
He could be and the birth of American CSI, and it's
Yep.
amazing how he like solve like right now he's solving a bank or a train robbery, and it's so the cases are so good that you're just like in every case. Like I'm learning
Um,
about cases, but also learning about like early forensics. And it makes me wish that I was like a 1920s forensic scientist.
Harrison wants to know if we would do viewer suggestions for money. I'll
What do
do
you
anything for money. I was thinking of
It
um
depends.
Happy New Year, Durian. Tell Eddie we said
Yeah,
hi.
goodbye.
Um
Bye. Say hi to
so
Eddie. I hope Eddie's wearing his jacket. I gave Eddie a
um
jacket for
oh, that's
Christmas.
cute.
Oh my god.
So I will take any suggestion, but I was thinking of doing like for the show previously, we could do like a bits challenge, and it's like if it's this amount, it'll be old timey. If it's this amount, it'll be new, or if it's this amount, it'll be like a cult or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you could like vote with bits on.
Yeah.
He is wearing his sweater. So like everyone could vote with bits on like stuff. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty much almost do it. I won't join a cult, but well, it depends on how much money, because then I'll just leave the cult
Right, right. Like,
eventually.
what's the time frame for this money? Like, you gotta work it out. But yeah, no, that would be we'll figure that out. In the meantime, merch. We have merch. We have our Amazon store, which is in the chat. Up at the top of the chat, the little Amazon smile symbol. We have all of the books that we've talked. Well, some of the books that we've talked about. Ones that we talk about a lot. Ones that we've read for research. Um,
I have to put some of mine up there that are. I'm
yeah,
gonna put
for
like
other
some that
cases.
I've read, and it might be like
Yeah,
not the greatest book of all time, but you might be interested in the crime. So.
yeah. Yeah, and other stuff like our gear that we use and if you buy, and there's also a general Amazon link, so if you buy anything through the link, it helps us.
Mhm,
Um, yeah, and also your Prime sub, you can subscribe for free
mhm,
with your Amazon Prime account. And imminently, I'm gonna get a discount code for our merch store to email out to all of our subscribers.
mhm.
So you'll get a discount for merch too.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. Have an awesome rest of your week. I'll see you next year. Which has been a corny joke that I was a groaner like every single other year in history, and now I'm like, yes,
I like that
next
joke. I will
year.
keep it forever.
Yes. My voice teacher said it to me last week, and I was like, "Oh my god, you're right! Oh my god!" So I saw a joke on Twitter where someone was like, "No one's going to be writing the wrong year on a check
Right.
in 2021."
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you in the new phase. Take care of yourself. Have an awesome holiday. We'll see
Yep.
you on Friday. All right. Bye.
Bye.